Hi, and welcome to 48 Minutes or Less NBA Podcast. I'm Sawyer, and with me always is Lewis and George. We're bringing you part 2 of our New Year's resolutions for teams. This time we're going to do the Western Conference teams. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So my first team we got is the Dallas Mavericks, and my New Year's resolution for them is to find a third star and then just dominate the West in 2020. Because I just think that they really need that third piece. And then once they get that, they really will be one of the top teams in the West. What do you guys think?
So, like, when you say third team, do you mean like a big three or kind of just that consistent third piece?
That consistent third star kind of guy, like that guy who's like could be borderline all-star if maybe he was on a different team.
So I mean, in a way, I kind of agree, but like the way the NBA is trending right now, it seems like most teams kind of have two stars and then nice pieces around them. I think if they do get a third star, if somebody wants to join Luka and Porzingis, then go for it. But I think a lot of it just comes to keep building around Luka and Porzingis and getting them to play better together and then build with the young core that you have around them. But if that third piece does come along, go for it, because why the fuck not? But they're fine the way they are. I think that they set themselves up to dominate the 2020s.
Yeah, they probably set themselves up to do pretty well. Like, their future looks bright. I'm just saying, if they were to find that, like, I think that should be like one of their goals, is finding that third piece. They could find him, they could immediately dominate, as opposed to like maybe being another like year or two away from really dominating.
I just think who could that player be? Because I'm looking right now at like the free agents for 2020, and really like there's none that can really, like, maybe Montrezl Harrell would be like the one that fits them in age wise, but I think he'd be bad for that team just because they wouldn't be able to space the floor the way they currently do, which is beneficial to their offense. And then on top of that, like maybe they could, like, I don't know, throw all their money at Brandon Ingram. If they throw all their money at Brandon Ingram and they can get him somehow, but I just doubt that the Pelicans are going to let him go, especially after the season he's having. So I just don't see where that third star is going to come from.
I think Brandon Ingram would be a great fit there.
That's what I was thinking of as well, was Brandon Ingram. Do they have the cap space this upcoming season, this offseason?
Not really sure. Let's imagine they do.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, but if they do, then, I mean, what do you think the Pelicans are actually going to let Brandon Ingram go? Especially after this season, with him shooting the way he has been from three, then he's going to be a perfect fit alongside Zion.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't give him up for nothing. If anything, they would rather do a sign-and trade if they could. Any team that gets him would probably prefer that too, in order to unload some contracts on the flip side. But it's a dream. But you're right. I honestly can't think of one. But when I was trying to think of a way for that team, like what would be their resolution for that team, it was honestly the only thing I think of was just like keep on trucking, like keep on doing what you're doing. But I was like, screw that. Like, find a third star and just dominate.
I'm gonna say the same name I've been giving out for a while, Fred VanVleet. He could be their future JJ Barea. I just don't know if he's foreign. And so that's the other thing with Dallas. It needs to be a foreign star, which makes it a little bit harder.
Giannis, man.
That's what Giannis is the only other option. That's the only thing that makes sense.
All right, George.
Yeah, I mean, Giannis would be great. They could play Porzingis like Brook Lopez.
I was thinking, hey, George, like,
I know where you're.
Who's next?
I know where you're meaning.
Oh.
So I just want to put that piece there. All right, so my team is the Denver Nuggets. Because, Lewis, that's how teams go in alphabetical order. So,
fuck you guys.
For the Denver Nuggets, I think they should do a consolidation trade because they have too many players currently that need minutes, and that could actually be an issue, and it could create chemistry problems. So with the consolidation trade, they can trade some of those. They should try to trade for a veteran wing defender that can help them against the Clippers or the Lakers come playoffs. And there's a couple. Ideally, the best choice would probably be Iguodala. And he could be really beneficial for them in the playoffs. But they could also go for like a guy like Rudy Gay, or they could go for Marvin Williams. There's other choices out there. They don't get Iggy, but
or even Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder would be really good. So there's definitely choices, and I think like we were talking during the trade thing, they have good pieces. They have Malik Beasley they could trade, and Michael Porter Jr. has been looking really good in the last games, especially the ones that he started. So I think he could be valuable to a team that's trying to trade a veteran piece and get a young future star.
Yeah, I think that's probably their best course of action is trading, looking to trade what they have for something to help them maybe right now, because this is their time. This is their window. Players their good players are already starting to be expensive. You know what I mean? So it's pretty much like now or never almost.
Yeah, and I don't know if they need like a wing defender, and then eventually have to look into what they're going to do with the whole Paul Millsap thing. Paul Millsap's getting a lot older, and he kind of is the anchor to that defense, to that top 5 defense that they have. So maybe if that doesn't work out, look for replaceable pieces for Paul Millsap, or even like a center that can kind of hold the ship above water, while Jokic always seems to kind of start slow in the season until he can figure it out. Just because they've been able to do that this season with Paul Millsap and the rest of the guys stepping up for Jokic, but maybe those type of players, because they have an abundance of offensive-minded wings, and that we've seen it in Boston that could be a bad thing. So I do like the idea of that consolidation trade.
Yeah, and I would say that adding Iggy is probably, if they're going to trade anybody for anybody, I think Iggy would probably be their best chance if they're really looking forward to going all in on trying to win it this year. Because I feel like if they don't win it this year, then the Lakers and Clippers are going to be better next year after having a whole year together. So it's just going to make it even harder for them.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think Iggy is the player they can get that can give them the highest ceiling without having to give up way too much for. So that's who I would be targeting. And I mean, like you said, the Lakers and Clippers might be getting better next year. And I'm not sure if the Denver Nuggets are going to be better. They're a young team, so they're going to get older, but they're also probably going to lose Paul Millsap. Louis, did you want to go on to the next team?
Yeah, so the next team is a team that, unlike the Denver Nuggets, lacks an abundance of talent, and that's the Golden State Warriors. So my resolution for them was, for the moment, to just kind of get your players healthy, make sure that Steph Curry comes back 100%, make sure that Klay Thompson comes back 100%, and then possibly look at trades for D'Lo. They don't have to do anything at the moment. They're also hard capped, so everything becomes just a little bit harder. So maybe look for something in the offseason for D'Lo. I just don't think that realistically he's the right piece to fit around Klay and Steph. And trade him while teams still view him as a positive value contract.
Yeah, I think this year was probably good for them to be bad, because they can at least get a high lottery pick, and do something with that. And they were able to see, of the players that they have who aren't, their big three, who's gonna be there beyond this year. You know what I mean? So I actually think that they needed this. They needed the year off in order to come back and possibly, they'll probably be right back in the playoffs next year, as long as those three players stay healthy.
Yeah, I was looking at like teams that need a guard. There's not a lot of like contending teams.
There's not
a lot. So it's like, and teams that do need one might not just have, like Minnesota needs a guard, but they don't really have the pieces that are willing to trade. Unless you look at Rocco as a good value for D'Lo, which might be a little bit less than what they want. The other option that I was thinking was D'Lo and maybe that top 5 pick that they're probably going to get for Giannis Antetokounmpo if the Bucks don't make it far this year.
I don't know if the Bucks would do that. I think they can get way more.
That
that the Bucks can probably get like 5 first-round picks.
In my mind, it seems that teams will just trade LeBron and Giannis.
Yeah, I don't know. Another thing I was thinking that with Dom and keeping their pick and stuff and then drafting someone, it kind of sucks because this draft, a lot of the top prospects are either done for the season or injured and haven't played many games. So it's a lot of like, oh, let's pick up this player based on what they've done prior to this year. And so there's not like a consensus number 1 pick. And the last time that happened, Anthony Bennett went first. So that's pretty scary stuff.
Who's the center that left college?
Wiseman.
Yeah, that might be a good pick for them because they do need center. They do need somebody.
I'm just saying the fact that they can have a chance on having somebody that has a high ceiling, with the way they've been as good as they are, they haven't had this kind of opportunity. So I think that it's definitely not a pick they should look at trading. I think they definitely need that pick for sure. I definitely, unless you were getting somebody like, I don't know, I can't even think of the person who you would get by trading D'Lo and that pick for somebody, but unless that person was like truly going to change your team, I don't think it's worth it.
I don't know. Do you want to move on to your next team, Sawyer?
Yeah, so the Houston Rockets, they were actually kind of hard for me to figure out what their resolution was going to be because it's just almost the same thing every year, and now they don't really have any way out of where they currently are in terms of like moving people around or anything like that. So the way I see it is that they need to just give Mike D'Antoni an extension because they've already committed to playing this kind of style, and like James Harden, it works for James Harden. The style works for him. So why try to change his style to somebody else's? It's not going to make you that much better of a team by having a different coach necessarily, because this coach and player combination just makes a lot of sense. And so on top of that, they need to actually find either a young or a decent 3-and-D wing because they need to play better defense. But honestly, a lot of that could be solved by them just getting Trevor Ariza back.
I don't know. My only issue with, I've been thinking about that D'Antoni and why is it that they haven't re-signed him. So I came up with two ideas. Number one, it's that Tillman Fertitta is a super, like everybody knows he's super cheap, so he doesn't want to pay D'Antoni as much as he wants because I guess he wants his basketball team to be like his restaurants, mediocre as fuck. So the other option is that maybe D'Antoni just doesn't want to re-sign with the Houston Rockets. I'm not sure. But it feels weird that when you have a good head coach that you haven't extended him. There's got to be some reason why that isn't.
Well, they look at like all the potential success they could have had, and they haven't had it. So it's kind of like hey man, you need to step it up. This is make or break year. My issue with is I just don't see any other coach being able to come in and immediately fix the problems or anything like that. Because like I said, the combination between D'Antoni and Harden works. Like their playing styles work with each other.
I don't know. I don't agree. I think you let D'Antoni go.
But who would you bring in then? Which coach is better than D'Antoni?
Dave Jager.
You think so?
Well, yeah, because if you think about it, like running the offense through James Harden hasn't worked in the playoffs. So James Harden's going to do what he does. But then you have another player, Russell Westbrook, that's amazing in transition. He's probably the best transition player in the NBA. And Dave Joerger is really good at running offense and running transition plays, like what he did with the Sacramento Kings last year. And I don't know, in a sense, like, D'Antoni's a good coach, but it's been how many seasons where he just has not succeeded in the playoffs? So you take a shot in the dark, and if you're not going to take
pretty much his entire career, it's been pretty much his entire career that he hasn't succeeded.
So why don't you trade? Why don't you just get rid of him and then take a shot in the dark? And Dave Joerger's a good coach. I know he has problems and he isn't liked very much, but D'Antoni just hasn't worked, and I don't think it's going to continue working. Just play no defense, slow pace down. And actually, even if you look at their pace, so right now they have the second highest pace in the NBA, and they had like the slowest pace last year. And that's with Russell Westbrook. So now you're going to get that. Now you're going to get like Joerger, who runs really quick, and he likes having fast-paced games. It might help Russell Westbrook unlock another part of his game. And Russell Westbrook running faster with better shooters around him and a better lob threat, it might actually like unlock. So you're playing through James Harden rather than Russell Westbrook, and I think that's the right move. James Harden is better than Russell Westbrook, but Russell Westbrook's limited by D'Antoni's system.
No, yeah, I agree. I don't think the pairing between Westbrook and D'Antoni makes any sense. But I didn't quite think about having David Joerger there. But it's just I just see it as like being difficult. But I mean, you never know. I guess. I mean, they're definitely not going to go very far in the playoffs. I honestly think it'd be a miracle for them to even get to the conference semis. Or I forget what they're called. The second round. Yeah, the second round. Sorry. I think it would be tough for them to get to even the second round.
I don't know. Right now, they would be going up against the Dallas Mavericks if playoffs started today. I just don't.
I think they can beat the Mavs.
I just don't see Dallas being able to beat them because they're just too inexperienced. And for everything that Luka does right, James Harden kind of does better.
Yeah, but I would say that Rick Carlisle is probably a better coach.
Rick Carlisle is a better coach, but the Rockets have more
and their
talent.
bench is better. The Mavs have a better bench.
Yeah, but in the playoffs, you're playing your starters like 40 minutes. So how much does your bench actually help?
Yeah, I know.
So you gotta think about.
I think. I mean, look at what was it? Who was it that gave Houston trouble before? Was it the Jazz?
No, the Jazz are a joke against
was it?
Houston.
No, who? I thought there was somebody that
Golden
Houston
State
played.
Warriors.
Oh yeah, they always just play Golden State.
Yeah,
That's
Golden State gives trouble to everybody.
Yeah, you gotta. So the thing is, so remember, like Rick Carlisle gets really good play from his bench pieces, but the reason why I'm not super high on the Mavericks even for the playoffs is because their bench is limited in the playoffs because they play last minute. And who you trusting? JJ Barea, who just came off an Achilles injury, and he's been good, but I mean that's the guy. And I just don't think I think you start scheming against some of their moves, and I don't think the Mavs could beat Houston. I definitely see Houston making the second round at least. I just don't see any other team.
Well, that you're assuming that Houston goes against like the Mavs or something, and something doesn't happen where they face somebody else.
As of right now, they're going up against the Mavs. But like, if you're scheming against the Mavs, you get PJ Tucker on Porzingis and get him away from that 3-point line and have him do something to you in the post, and he's not going to be able to get the ball of Lucas Hansen, put it in Porzingis in the post.
So while I think the West is stronger than the East, I think the top half of the East is better when it comes to the playoffs, just because they have more players that have playoff experience. When you come to the West, you're getting like I would say Houston's probably the third best team there because like Nuggets I don't think are better than Houston. I don't think the Utah Jazz are better than Houston. I don't think that that the Dallas Mavericks are better than Houston, and whichever one fills in the 7 and the 6 and the 8. I even have a possibility where I could see OKC if they play against like the Denver Nuggets or the Jazz, even being able to make the second round.
Possibly. Right. Well, I'll say this much: I don't think they're going to get to this conference finals. How about that?
I don't think they'll get to the conference finals either. They'll have to go up against the Lakers or the Clippers at some point.
Yeah, the only way I could see it is if like the Lakers and Clippers face each other in the second round.
I mean, that would be
finals.
what happened. That would be what happens right now if the playoffs are today. The Clippers and the Lakers would go head to head.
Speaking of the Clippers, George.
Yeah, so for my resolution for the Clippers, for the Los Angeles Clippers, I would say to keep your two injury prone stars healthy for the playoffs, and then possibly look for a trade for rim protector using your 2020 first. I know there's rumors right now that Andre Drummond is in the market, and there's been talks with Atlanta, but then the Clippers have also shown interest. I don't know necessarily if Andre Drummond's the right move, but there's not a lot of good rim protectors right now out in the market, so I could see that happening. But I think your main
and Drummond's not one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then I would say maybe keep your two injury prone stars healthy. That's your biggest resolution. So load manage as hard as possible. I know last night's game they didn't play Paul George, so I think that's smart. Play them as least as possible. Just win games, don't get blown out by the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, they got booed in their own stadium because of that.
I wonder that's something's up with the Clippers lately. Maybe the stress is getting to them, or like they thought they'd be better.
I don't think they've been able to find the right consistency because their player when Paul George and Kawhi Leonard play together, they pretty much win almost all the time. But like it's so inconsistent when they play with each other. Like sometimes Paul George takes a night off, sometimes Kawhi takes a night off. Like you can never find that right balance. I think eventually they'll find it, but I just think right now it's hard for them to really find that right momentum.
Yeah. Do you wonder if actually load management might be what's hurting them right now? And I think they'll figure it out in the playoffs once they play more games back to back like that together. But like if you think about the Toronto last year, so you had Kawhi come in and he was load managing, but most of the other team had already like played together. Right, they all knew each other. Right, this team is rather new. Like it's both two biggest pieces are both new, right? And so
they're both being low managed. They're both being low managed.
So they don't have the chemistry that the Toronto Raptors had last year, and so the Toronto Raptors already knew how to play when Kawhi wasn't playing.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest difference is it's not just one star you have to integrate. You're integrating two stars, and both stars aren't playing every single game or nearly every single game out there.
The other thing that's also worrying is the fact that the Clippers are actually negative when Paul George is playing without Kawhi. So the minutes when Kawhi doesn't play or the games that Kawhi doesn't play, they're actually, with Paul George on the floor, they're worse than the other team.
Well, that's why Paul George is a better second player. Like he's not he's always been. It's actually probably been better when he has been the second best player on his team.
Yeah, it's just like what you guys said. With them always sitting, they haven't found that consistency that you sometimes need in championship teams.
I would still be worried about that though, because I feel like Paul George without Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers is still probably a better team than most of the teams they're going up against.
Yeah, I just maybe whoever they have to play with Paul George at that time. I don't know.
And you got to think about the fact that
I
Kawhi
think they'll
Leonard's
eventually
probably
get
going
it
to sit.
together.
Kawhi Leonard's probably going to sit against most of the bench units. So it's Paul George and the Clippers versus a bunch of bench units, and they're doing worse. That's pretty worrying. And Paul George did come back from two injuries, from two surgeries.
Yeah, but he hasn't been playing bad. Like,
But he hasn't been playing
by no
great.
means has been playing bad. Yeah, but I just think the injuries have also hindered him getting in the right flow of everything as well. And I feel like the load management isn't necessarily helping that. I mean, it is because it's keeping him not being injured, but it just he'll get into a flow and then he'll tweak something and now he has to sit out of the game or two. And it's like he was just starting to get into that, he's just starting to find his rhythm, and then something happens. But I mean, I think they'll get it together.
How about we move toward the other LA team that seems to have a really good rhythm with their 2 stars? Louis, you want to take this one away?
Yeah, so they do have a good rhythm unless they face the Clippers, and that's the Los Angeles Lakers. So my resolution for them was to find a way to get Joe Ingles on the team. That way, instead of having showtime, they can have bald time, with LeBron, Caruso, and Ingles as their bald 3. The real resolution is to get a player like Joe Ingles-esque. So a secondary ball handler that's decent at it, that can play decent defense, and is a 3-point threat. The problem with that is finding that wing ball handler, wing style is what every other team in the NBA needs. And those players,
any contending team
needs more of those guys. So, and that's their biggest hole, I think, because Rondo is their only other ball handler that can create shots for others, and he's just not a 3-point threat. So come playoffs, teams will just sag off him. So I'm not sure where they find that.
Derrick Rose. Derrick
Rose would make sense. Andre Iguodala would be the player that would make the most sense. He's not that much of a shooter, but for some reason when Andre Iguodala plays in the playoffs, he becomes Steph Curry levels of shooting, which is the weirdest thing in the world.
No, he's really good at taking open threes in the final seconds of the game.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe
Him and
acquire a player
Backpack
like
Dre.
him or something. Him and Backpack Dre.
I mean, I'll honestly say this: I didn't expect the Lakers to be nearly this good right now. Like I would say what people expected out of them, they've lived up to almost a little bit, maybe even more so. I think everybody knew they were gonna make the playoffs and be like a top seed, but I don't think anybody realized like how good they would be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me the most about them so far has been their chemistry this year.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of it has to.
Almost everybody is new too. Like that's so weird.
Yeah, well, I think while everybody was doing whatever they wanted going off on the offseason, LeBron was inviting the team to Taco Tuesday and helping them build the chemistry. And maybe instead of laughing at that, more players should do the same thing. So, and because even DeMarcus Cousins has been amazing on the bench, just as feeling like he's part of the team even without having to play. And I think that's finding a way to actually get guys like Rondo and Dwight Howard to give up some of that ego and contribute to winning basketball.
Also helps when you have an ego like LeBron James there. Like, you're really gonna argue with him?
Not really.
But yeah, I mean, so I guess moving on now to a team that I really like where their direction is heading, which is the Memphis Grizzlies. I think that their resolution should just be continuing player development. I think they're doing a fantastic job right now on that end. And I think that they have a bright future ahead of them, and they just need to keep on doing what they're doing. They got, Ja Morant, Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson Jr., and they still have some other pieces on that team that aren't doing that bad either. I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Don't they have
There's a
Brooks or
guard.
something? Brooks? Is it Brooks?
They have Dylan Brooks, but I don't know how well he's doing this year. There's another guard that's playing really well.
Not
When John Morant has to sit, I just can't remember his name.
Yeah, he was. He did really well the other night.
God, I can't remember his name. I feel so bad. But
I'm looking
yeah,
it
I
up
think
now,
that
man.
you're looking up now. Thanks. I was thinking about it. I was
Tyus
like,
Jones.
I don't know if
no,
I
it's
should.
not Tyus Jones.
No, not Tyus Jones. No.
It's Dylan
he's
Brooks,
Out, he's
right?
out playing Tyus Jones. No.
The Anthony Melton.
Yeah, DeAnthony Melton, my boy. DeAnthony Melton has actually been playing really well for them as well. But I just think continuing player development for them just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think they got lucky that, at least for me, Ja has been better than advertised. My thing with Memphis, and this is the one thing, it's the same thing that I have with Zion in Pelicans. Players of his types, hyper-athletic guards, tend to have shorter lifetimes. So while they should continue the player development, they should look into maybe looking at Ja's peak being around 23, 24, and not so much 26, 27.
Yeah, but the thing is, a lot of these hyper athletic guards don't shoot as well as Ja does, and Josh is already a good shooter, and he's only gonna get better.
Yeah, but he didn't come in as a shooter. He's just somehow been great at shooting. So I'm not sure how realistic that is.
Well, it's more similar. Like if you look at his last year, his second year playing in college, he was shooting 37 from three, and this is more closer to what he's doing now. And he's shooting like 70 something from the free throw line, 78 I think percent from the free throw line. So it's more accurate, showing that he's a decent shooter, and he can continue developing his shot. He might not be an amazing 3-point shooter, but if he's okay, then that's good enough. And then you can be less worried about him not being valuable once he loses his athleticism.
I mean, I think on the bright side of the fact that a lot of times, guards, point guards especially, don't do well right out of college and need some time to develop. But he's shown that he's kind of going against that trend almost a little bit and is actually doing pretty well in this first year.
That kid is going to put Memphis on the map. He's got like highlight dunks every single night. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So take us to a team that you would think would be on the up and up.
Never.
That team's never been on the up and up, only when they had Jimmy Butler. The Minnesota Timberwolves. So right now, for my resolution, is to figure out what your future is going to look like. And I definitely don't think it should include Wiggins. And I think they should consider moving Robert Covington to acquire a young point guard. We talked about D'Lo, but I don't know if Robert Covington's enough for D'Lo. But I think right now their biggest concern is also figuring out what your future is with Towns. He hasn't been playing recently, and the injury didn't seem that bad. Some people are speculating that maybe it has something to do with his discontent with the team. And maybe they should look already into trading Towns before it's too late. He doesn't seem happy with the team, and I just don't think they've successfully built a team around him for success. And Towns could get them back a lot of pieces if they consider that option. I just don't know if that's the right option. And so I think I wouldn't rush it right now, but maybe by the offseason figure out what your future is going to be and which players are going to be there, and if you look into moving Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah, I think that's something that I've been thinking about, was maybe just give up on the whole Towns Wiggins thing and then just go back into rebuild mode and try again. Because they wasted the time that they had when they were both on cheap contracts, and now they're both on their second contracts, and the team hasn't gotten any better. And I guess you can say they didn't waste it. They tried getting Jimmy Butler, but that didn't work. So maybe...
Yeah, but you have to imagine, though, too, what they gave up for Jimmy Butler and then what they got in return.
What did they give up for Jimmy Butler?
I mean, they gave up Chris Dunn. I mean, not like he was great or anything.
They give up Chris Dunn, Lauri Markkanen.
And the pick in the draft that turned up to Lauri Markkanen. But I'm saying what they got in return then for trading Jimmy Butler.
Robert Covington.
Was Robert Covington and Dario Saric.
And Dario Saric, which they turned Dario Saric into... Which rookie?
Jarrett Culver.
Culver?
Yeah, and then they turned Dario Saric into Jarrett Culver. So
Jarrett Culver, I think, was a really bad draft pick.
Yeah. But so we're saying...
They haven't had a lot of great draft
So we're
picks.
saying they turned Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, and...
Oh, yeah, Zach LaVine, too. I totally forgot.
Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, and Chris Dunn into Robert Covington and Jarrett Culver. So arguably... It depends on what you think. I think Lauri Markkanen, Zach LaVine, and Chris Dunn are not that great. So I don't think they lost
comparing
a lot.
that to one playoff appearance and having Robert Covington.
I think it was worth it. I would do the trade
I think
again.
it was worth it, to be honest, because And
It was worth a shot.
So my
but-
issue with Zach LaVine, this is on another tangent, but when Zach LaVine was in Minnesota, every time that Ricky Rubio didn't play and Zach LaVine played, the Minnesota Timberwolves got destroyed. And every time that Zach LaVine didn't play and Ricky Rubio played, the Minnesota Timberwolves won. And ever since that, I've realized Zach LaVine is not very good at basketball.
But you have to imagine some of the decisions they've made on who they've let go and who they decided to keep. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Like they've let it's similar to like the Magic when like everybody they would trade away or let go does better almost when they leave the team. Or like they shouldn't have left the team to begin with. I don't know.
I mean, Chris Dunn can't play offense, but he's probably the best defensive guard in the NBA.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, like think about like they let Ricky Rubio go and stuff, and like they signed players like Gorgio Dang to a huge contract for no reason, and Andrew Wiggins.
Gorgio.
Wait,
what'd you call him?
I
Gorgio?
don't even fucking know, man.
Gorgio?
Gorgie.
Oh, Gorgio.
Gorgio Dang.
Gorgie, dang.
Whatever.
So,
I thought it was Gorgie.
Gorgie?
I think
I don't know.
Gorgie.
The point is, George, I think
yeah.
I think
Gorgio.
your resolution for the Minnesota Timberwolves should have been the same as your resolution for the New York Knicks. Fire everybody. You're not fucking change states. Just stop being who you are.
I mean, if they give up Towns, I think they're moving.
Vancouver Timberwolves?
That wouldn't be bad.
I don't know.
So back to a team that actually looks like they have a decent future. Maybe
Not really.
Hey, they went on that 4-win streak. And then they got blown out.
They've
by the
almost caught
Lakers.
up to the Kings now in wins. That's how bad the Kings have been playing. Yeah. So my team is the New Orleans Pelicans. So my resolution for them is to keep working Zion back, and I think maybe they should look into putting him on a diet plan. Like as a team, kind of come up with a diet plan for him, because that weight issue is gonna continuously affect him his whole career, and it could affect the length of his career. And then just work and just resign Ingram. That should be easy. He's a restricted free agent. Whatever money he gets, he's probably gonna get a max. Just re-sign him. You're not going to get something better for that than Ingram from free agency.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I've got no comments.
That's typically all my resolutions.
I mean, it's going to be really hard to put Zion on a diet when he's playing in New Orleans.
More reason to do it. More reason to do
All
it.
that he's eating. He's probably eating a crap ton of gumbo. But do you think they should trade Lonzo? Because they're probably not going to offer Lonzo a contract.
I don't know, honestly.
I don't know about giving him an extension.
Are they going to get much for him?
But do you think they should see if Lonzo? No, but I mean, if you're not going to keep him and he's not good, and you're not going to offer him an extension, why don't you just trade him, get something over nothing?
I guess they still have next year to kind of test out the Lonzo fit, and they haven't seen him with Zion yet.
I don't know. He's shooting 36% from three right now, so it's not bad. But I mean, he's not doing anything. And while he's a good passer, he's only really good at like transition passes, not at half court passing. His half court defense isn't good.
Well, when you can't shoot, it really affects your half-court offense as well. He has like similar issues to like Ben Simmons, except Ben Simmons is a couple of inches bigger.
He's a better player. But so next team, Oklahoma City Thunder. I think they should just get something for Steven Adams and just build for their future. I think they got a lot of picks for Westbrook. They got a lot of picks for Paul George. So, I mean, as long as they hit on some of those, their future has to look bright. And, Shea wasn't a bad piece to get for Paul George, I guess. I mean, the only downside to their team right now is they have Chris Paul on the books, and no easy way of getting rid of that.
Do you think that the OKC are mad about how good they've been? They're 9-1 in their last 10 games, and they're 7th in the Western Conference, and now they're looking like a secure playoff spot. I think they're 20-15 on the year.
I mean, as being in Oklahoma City, being a small market, they would love to be in the playoffs. They have enough picks. They're like, whatever.
That team has never missed playoffs. Oh no, they did. They missed 1 year. The one that Kevin Durant was injured, and Russell Westbrook missed like 2 months.
Oh yeah, I think they missed playoffs. So I think they're in a perfect situation. If I was them, I wouldn't want to be in any different situation. You're gonna make the playoffs. you have a reason. So like when people are like, "Oh, trade Chris Paul now, trade Steven Adams," so they don't feel rushed to trade these pieces. So look at them. So they have Steven Adams right now. They could continue him. They can keep him for the season, push for the playoffs. This offseason, he's a lot more tradable because now he's on an expiring contract. So then he could be a nice trade piece that a lot of teams are like, "Oh, I will pay $27 million for 1 year of Steven Adams." Right? And then I get bird rights to retain him. And then you have Gallo. You can probably try to re-sign Gallo this summer. Keep him, get him with bird rights so it doesn't hurt your cap, and then trade him out come next season because there's a bunch of teams that would go for him. That don't have the cap space to sign him this summer when he's a free agent. So I think they're in a really good situation. And they have a lot of picks, but like right now, like Chris Paul's helping the chemistry of the team. The young players are still growing. I mean, what better teacher do you want if you're Shea than Chris?
I mean, and they could just go the same route as the Clippers and like Boston did, where it's just a soft rebuilding, where they can rebuild while contending, and it helps when the other picks you have don't belong to you.
OKC had probably the quickest rebuild. I will say that, or not OKC. Sorry, the Clippers.
1 year, and they still look good.
And they still made the playoffs. But yeah, so George.
So my next team is the Phoenix Suns. So I would say their resolution right now is to see if Ayton can actually be a solid player and form a big two with Booker, and if not, try to acquire that number 2 star. That's going to be hard with the 2020 offseason not being great, but you still have time. So look maybe to 2021, see if you can get Giannis. But Ayton's probably been the most disappointing player, I would say, this season with the suspension and then coming back, and obviously getting injured wasn't his fault, but he just hasn't shown any growth because he hasn't been on the court. And so they need to figure that out soon so they can plan for the future. And if Ayton's not your player, maybe you need to look at something different.
The only thing I'm going to say about the Phoenix Suns is the fact that they don't have to search for another coach. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah,
they have a good coach now.
Except they still look bad. Like, I think they started way too hot, and now they're coming back on earth. I think Ayton even looks worse too because of how good Trey and Luka have been. At least it helps that Marvin Bagley has been worse. But to my thing with the second starters, if they can't acquire that, at what point is it time for them to trade Booker before he leaves? It's the same issue Minnesota has. I don't know. I think a lot of these teams at some point they got to start looking that maybe it's not the coach, maybe it's not the players, but it's not like the GM. Maybe it's something more than that. Maybe it's the entire staff, everything they have in place. Yeah, so that's kind of my 2 cents about the Phoenix Suns. So my next team was the Portland Trailblazers, and my resolution for them was to sign a forward this offseason and then try to move on from Whiteside's contract to at least get some value from it. I know some people are saying with the whole Kevin Love drama that's been happening recently, I'm not sure if you guys have seen the whole Colin Sexton outburst that he had. Fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I saw that video. It was ridiculous. It was fucking... Dude, but Colin Sexton, what was he fucking doing? Like, pass the goddamn ball. God.
So, just maybe they could trade Whiteside for Love. That might give him an option. And like, just, sign some forwards this offseason. They never signed forwards. Every other team wants forwards except the Portland Trailblazers. They want guards.
Yeah, I think that's probably their best bet. I mean, as long as they still have Damian Lillard, I think they're always going to be able to contend.
Especially with the West being as weak as it's been so far this year,
agree.
they can stay in contention.
Well, they're part of the reason why the West has been as weak as it is. You realize that, right? The West is as weak as it is because the Spurs and them have been bad. That's why the West is open.
Next, Sacramento Kings. Just overall get healthy. I think they've had like a lot of injuries and stuff over the this year so far, and find a true rim protector really. But I honestly don't know what to do with it. Was another hard one for me to figure out.
It's just you're saying find a rim protector. The problem is they've been good with Holmes playing center, but now they're playing Bagley at center, and Bagley's just not that good right now, and I don't think he's going to be good ever. I don't think he's the answer. So it just leaves a problem because they're better off just not playing Bagley anymore.
That's hard to do for a number 2 pick like a year ago.
Yeah, the problem with the Kings, making a resolution for the Kings, the same thing with the Suns and the Timberwolves and stuff, is that the problems that they have were problems that have been laid out from years of bad management. So in one new year, you can't fix that. It's not something small like signing some player. it's more than that. So saying get healthy and find a rim protector isn't going to fix everything else that they've done wrong over the last 10 years.
So for my last team, I did the San Antonio Spurs, and really simple. It's time to face the music and blow that motherfucker up. And we know that Pop is way too cool to let explosions, so his ass is going to be retiring this offseason. But yeah, I mean, just don't do a soft rebuild. Don't do anything. Just blow that fucker up. Figure out who your young guards are that are good, who you want to rebuild around. Try to get pieces for DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge if you can, but just blow it up. Just face the music. Stop trying to compete. It's over. I feel like the reason they keep trying is because of Pop, and they're maybe just waiting for Pop to retire. But Pop is probably gonna finish off this year, go win gold at the Olympics, and then I don't know, just go to sleep. I don't know what Pop's gonna do.
Yeah, it's just really hard sometimes for small market teams to just be like, yeah, let's blow it up, because it's a small market.
And plus, they've been good for like over 20 years. Do they even know how to blow it up? Like, this isn't the New York Knicks.
I think Pop needs to move into a Pat Riley kind of role and hand over the reins to somebody else.
Like Tim Duncan?
Yeah, go for it. Tim Duncan for the win.
I do agree with you, though. I think the Spurs need to face the music. Like, right now they're the 8th seed, so they're still keeping that streak alive for now. But is it worthwhile if you're under 500 while making the 8th seed? Like, what's the value in that? So so I'll just move on to the final team of these resolution pods, and that is the Utah Jazz. So my resolution for them was really simple. Just build a time machine. So instead of trading for Conley, you could trade for Jrue Holiday. Simple as that.
Pretty much, yeah. I think Jrue Holiday would have been a much better fit for that team. I didn't think Mike Conley would have dropped off nearly as much as he did this year.
No, it's been, and we talk about like if the team is better with Kyrie or not, but the Utah Jazz have been considerably better without Conley.
Well, I think the problem is just stop treating Conley like a 20, like a max player. Just treat him like another.
That might be
player
what he
and
needs. He
put him
might
off the
need
bench.
that. I'm not sure what's wrong with him. I'm not sure if it's an injury. It's just he's not just. It's different if it was like a couple of games of playing bad. It's been the whole year he's been that bad, and it's affecting the team. I mean, and Joe, it wasn't just him. Joe Ingles coming off the bench was playing awful, and the moment he came back to starting, he's been ridiculous. So it's like a mix of both Mike Conley playing badly and taking time away from Joe Ingles. So so guys.
That's all you get. That's all you guys have.
Yeah,
right there.
That's literally how I'm ending it. Yep.
Okay.
Super
that's
awkward.
Fine.
Oh, real quick before we go, I just wanted to on I guess a heavier note, I wanted to mention about David Stern's passing on January 1st, and how it's sad that he passed away, and thoughts and prayers, I guess, to his family. But he did a lot for the NBA, and he was a big change, and he brought the NBA's probably basketball is the second biggest sport in the world, and a sport that is primarily African American. That's a huge accomplishment that he was a big part of, as well as changing the dialogue for HIV and AIDS with the incident with Magic in the 80s and the 90s.
He did in his 30 years as commissioner, he did a lot to expand the NBA to a global outreach, brought in change in the terms of bringing in a ton of foreign players and bringing the NBA to foreign countries, expanding out to China.
Yep, and Adam Silver is just continuing on with it too, so it's not ending. David Stern's message has not ended. His legacy, yeah.
So condolences to him and his family and everything that he did for a great sport, and a lot of great players that have come.
So thanks for joining us this week, guys. We'll release another podcast this Friday, and please like, comment, subscribe. Love you.
Stop telling people you love them.
No, we can do it every single time.
We don't have any pudding.